Welcome to FoundHer Rising, the podcast for women founders in wellness coaching and consulting who are ready to build businesses that create freedom, impact, and income. I'm your host, Christine Hakkola, business coach, former psychotherapist, and mentor to women scaling service-based businesses. Today, I'm joined by Jodi Kapes and Valerie Lighthall, co-founders of Aligned Clinical LCSW Consulting. They provide clinical debriefings and mental health support for organizations and teams. Jodi and Valerie, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, thank you.
I'm so happy to have you both here. Thank you. Thank you for coming and for taking the time to, you're about to share your story and all of your wisdom. And I'm so excited.
Yes, we're very excited
Thanks
to be here.
for having us. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to mention as well, this is my first time interviewing two people at once. And I know that you are both colleagues. You have a business together. You're also friends. So I'm really excited for this experience for all of us. Let's kind of go back a few years. You both worked together inside a hospital behavioral health system. What happened? What sparked the shift from that to where you are today?
Well, I think we worked together for a number of years and got to know each other quite well and worked together supervising staff and kind of responding to different crises, both in the hospital and then ultimately in the community. Mm-hmm. So I left first and, Val kind of stuck around for a couple more months and then left. I think, as you know, COVID changed the landscape of behavioral health. And both of us had been in that hospital system. I was there for about 14 years before leaving. So it was just time for a shift. And one of the things that we used to do while we were working together was talk about our community really needs this, or maybe we should run this type of group or address these people. And we did that on a pretty regular basis. Wouldn't you say? We would talk after work and be like, I noticed this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think once we left, I don't know, it wasn't very long till we started our, what we're calling walk and talks, and started planning kind of what was going to be next for us in a partnership.
Amazing. So you were both inspired by actually being inside the mental health system, seeing what was and wasn't working and really wanting to make some changes. So when you both left, and Valerie, I'd love to hear from you as well, did you go straight into private practice? What did that look like when you first left your salaried jobs?
Yeah, when I left, I did go straight into private practice. I had already had a little side hustle of a private practice since late 2019, right before COVID happened. So when I was deciding to leave where we were working, it was right around the same time that Jodi had left. I said, you can't leave. I want to leave. We can't both leave at the same time. And I was actually just coming back from maternity leave. So it wasn't super feasible right in the here, then and now to leave. But yeah, so I built up my practice over a number of months from a side hustle to a full-time gig. And I jumped right into it probably about 6 months after I came back from maternity leave, which was right around the same amount of time that Jodi had left as well. Okay. So, yeah.
And Jodi, did you go right into private practice as well?
I've had a private practice for about 20 years, kind of in and out of how much time I spend there. It was, I started doing that long before I had kids. And then once I took a little bit of a back seat, I primarily saw kids actually until I had my own. And then kind of took a back seat to just my regular 9 to 5. And I did at that same point start doing more community oriented presentations and trainings, focused on wellness and mental health, dealing with even transitioning back from COVID, how to deal with that. So I started doing a lot more wellness work.
Okay. So you're both in private practice. You've both got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, and you were going for what you refer to as these walk and talks. Talk us through how what you've built today emerged from those walk and talks.
I think it was very organic. I think it started as, we used to see each other every other day when we worked together and talk to each other every day. We worked pretty much side by side. And so when we both left, we were like, let's get together. I want to know how it's going for you and what's going on in your life as well. Because as you said, we were also friends. And it just started occurring naturally, talking about what we were seeing in the community, talking about what the work that we did at the hospital and maybe what, we don't see happening in our community. And as things evolved, I think as things, unfortunately, traumas happened, noticing what could be improved, what was missing, what we needed around here, what our clients were telling us that was needed. And was very natural. And it was a lot of like, we should do this over and over and over again until finally we were like, we are going to do this. Like we talked it into being here. Yeah.
So you both maintained your own private practice and started building. Is it a clinic? Is it a brick and mortar clinic? Jodi, what do you have today that's shared between the two of you, your business model?
So we do have a space that is available to us, where we have run some trainings and, can work out of. But, true to our kind of like walk and talk model, when we do have something that we need to, kind of arrange or plan, it's pretty common for us to get together and walk and kind of hash it out. And after working together for so long, Valerie is very talented at the like writing and, packaging, kind of the marketing piece of this. And I'm pretty comfortable doing the talking and training. And so we used to joke around when it's great at working together, Val knows when I'm talking about something, she can just package it. And then the two of us come to a good kind of rhythm. It's great. It's awesome.
That's amazing. So as you two were building this business, both managing families, navigating through COVID, as we all were, you mentioned in the pre-interview, there was an active shooter scare. And that sounds like it was a real turning point for both of you in what you were building together. Tell us a little bit, how did that impact your vision and the direction that you've gone since then?
Yeah, I think we were both living and working in this community. We are from a small community, rural, and there was actually 2 within a short period of time of active shooter scares, we'll call them. And we were talking about how, we know a lot of people in the community. We also work with a lot of people in the community. And I personally had several clients that were involved in that. They were maybe adjacent to her. They were maybe near where it happened and had said they just didn't feel like they had the support they needed. They have me as a therapist. That's great. We would process things. However, they felt like they needed some sort of community debriefing, right? So either, if it happened at their place of employment or the place they were going to school, they were like, I need the people who went through this with me. I need to be debriefed with them. We need to heal as a community from this. And we weren't seeing that happening. I think it was a mix of not having enough resources or resources that were available were tapped. And so after that happening a few times, that really, I think, was a pretty big push for us to be like, okay, we have the skills to do this. We would debrief at the hospital after there were major traumas. We would debrief staff. We would debrief patients that were there. We have these skills. We have the training. Jodi is actually a critical incident response trainer as well. So she can train in that. We're like, we need to make this skill that we have available to our community so that they, when this inevitably does happen again, something like this, or God forbid, something worse, we are here to support.
Yeah. This sounds like a really different experience than what you had at the hospital, where the story I'm telling myself is you had to work within the confines of the system. And after this incident, it sounds like this was maybe the first time that you really had the freedom to show up and respond in the way that you felt was right, that really met the needs of the community. Jodi, could you say a little bit about your experience around that and how that changed the course of your business?
Well, one thing that did happen as a result of that is our local police department reached out and asked just if we'd be able to provide some support for them, recognizing that there's not really a lot of mental health training, although about 90% of their calls are mental health related. So just dovetailing off some of the response in the hospital, there would be EMS or firefighters who would be present for these awful traumas, and then not really a system to be applied to help them process that. And oftentimes they were just expected to move forward with whatever it was they had going on next. So I think, understanding that and what that looks like for people as far as longevity in their job or their ability even to just show up to work, this gave us a real opportunity to use our skills to support our community.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. You two, I can tell from talking with you both, you're obviously very experienced and skilled clinicians. And part of the benefit of being in business for yourselves is now you get to see the need in the community and figure out how to respond to it, how to show up in a way that is more aligned with how you want to work, how you want to be serving. One of the things that I notice in speaking with many, many female service providers is sometimes what can feel like you're being pulled in two different directions of wanting to serve, wanting to show up and do the job you were trained to do. However, what many of us don't realize when we get into business is now we're wearing this second hat as a business owner. And there's a lot of things to consider, as you now know, running a business that don't always jive with being a service provider. Talk about some of the experiences you've each had, whether it's, good or challenging, of being both a business owner and a service provider.
Well, I think we do a good job of identifying what we're lacking and then try to talk each other up to figure out who it is that's going to...
It's amazing. You've double your skills here.
Who's going to do the marketing and that's one thing that we just struggle with for sure. We keep negotiating, like who's going to do our social media posts. Neither one of us likes bragging about ourselves.
So interesting.
Right. What do you think, Val?
Yeah, I think that is our biggest struggle is the marketing piece. I think we both know a lot of people, Jodi, especially in our community mental health space. But it's just getting the word out there. Yeah. Selling ourselves. I think as women and as social workers, that's not taught or encouraged. And we're trying to build ourselves up to get there. And we give each other pep talks. Like, we are worth this. We know how to do this. We have the skills. We have the experience, right? We have the job titles, but getting there. And I think another piece of this too is the pricing. Also, add that to the layer of being female, being a social worker, but also this don't talk about money mentality, right? And so when we're coming to a point where we are putting a price on our services, I think a lot of times we've done something and then we turn around and we're like, why? We probably should have charged more, right? We gave them a lot. We gave them really valuable services. And maybe we're not charging where we should be based on what we offer. And so I think that's really hard too. I think it goes right along with selling ourselves and putting it at a price point that is equal to what we offer as well. So that has been another, I think, struggle for us.
Quick resource for you. If you've hit consistent revenue, but working harder isn't creating more growth, I put together a free guide called From 10K to 40K Months. It breaks down what actually has to change when you move from solopreneur energy into real scaling, structure, profit, team, capacity, not just marketing tactics. If you're ready for growth that feels sustainable instead of chaotic, go download it. It's free. The link's in the show notes. Now, back to the conversation. You may or may not know this, but you've touched on two of my favorite topics, marketing and finances. And the reason I love them is not because I haven't experienced the same things as both of you. There's this inherent conflict that I've experienced over the decades that I've done this work, especially for women service providers. We are all, myself and the folks that I serve and are in my, my inner circle and my world, we're all what I call heart-centered, and we're all led by, we're mission-driven. We want to help. And the way that many women in our society are raised is to be helpful by being generous, by providing value, to putting others first. Yet when doing that is our livelihood is dependent on that. And we've now built our business around it. There's this inherent, what can at first feel like a conflict between quote unquote, selling ourselves, putting ourselves out there, speaking about ourselves, charging money, for the service we're providing. And then also, how do we reconcile that with being helpful in the world? And I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this. one of the ways that I've approached this and that I work with people is that this isn't about selling ourselves. This isn't about taking money from people that don't have it or can't afford it. This is about being of service. It's about providing value in a sustainable way. And I want to address both of these things separately. Let's talk about the marketing piece first. I so often hear female service providers say, I'm not good at selling myself, or I don't want to have to sell myself. And one of the ways I look at this is like, we're not selling ourselves, we're selling a service, and we're actually providing significant value to the people that we're helping. And I'm curious to hear from each of you, what have your experiences been of being out in the community, sharing your service and doing that from a place of seeing the value that you provide? Like, what experiences have you had where you can see the impact that you have on the clients that you serve?
Well, I think that, we've done a number of trainings and supports for organizations, and just to see the benefit within the portion of the training where people get to exercise their skills, and to have managers, approach us at the breaks and just really, be grateful that we're giving them language and support to talk with their employees about hard topics, about mental health issues, about trauma, and how to, deal with that at work. They don't have the skill set. Right? When you promote somebody to supervisor or manager, you don't really train them on how to deal with your employee that's going to come in that has a parent that recently died, or a drug addiction, or something like that. And so we do get a lot of feedback in the moment. And that for us, I think, speaking for myself, makes me feel valued for sure. And it makes me feel as though my service is extremely valuable.
I love that. I love that so much. How about for you, Valerie?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Jodi said. And, after we leave those sessions that we have with people, it lifts us up. Or when we're talking about the next session that we have going on, the next, thing that we are doing, it's like really gives us some momentum, some push to really like, okay, this is a group of people that we're going to help, right? We're going to give them tools that they need for this. Especially, we didn't touch on it much yet, but the risk management portion of what we offer with our business as well. Talking, a lot around here, we have a lot of smaller businesses, and they don't really have much in the way of resources for mental health. If an employee comes to the HR leader and says, I really need to see a therapist, or I really need a psychiatrist, right? And a lot of times they don't know where to turn, or maybe they're saying, I'm having thoughts of hurting myself. They don't have a plan a lot of times, and that's no fault of their own. I think this has never really been talked about that much in the workplace up until now, or it's been brushed aside. So giving them the resources like, hey, this is what you can do, or let's make a policy that has a step-by-step decision tree of what you do when this employee comes to you and says, this is what I need, this is what I have going on, instead of just saying, call our insurance company. Yes, they are a great resource and they will help, but sometimes they don't have the local connection. They don't know who or what is available and what might be needed. So part of what we do also is help these businesses come up with a plan for when that does happen, when that employee comes to them and says, this is what I need. And for me, I think I do get a lot of joy out of knowing that we've helped a business with that. Because I've had lots of people come to me, family, friends, colleagues. Hey, I need a therapist. Hey, this person in my life is going through a really hard time. I don't know how to help them. I don't know where to send them. I really enjoy doing that for people, is helping them like, okay, this is what you need. This is the kind of therapist you need. This is how you find it. That's not really out there and talked about. Yeah. So that part of it also gives me a big boost, that risk management of like, what are you going to do when this happens? Here's what works.
Yeah, you get to be a real connector in the community and then also provide that transformation yourself. And I just feel the impact that the work that the two of you are doing makes. And I think it's very exciting. I also want to hold up how easily you both speak about the work that you do in terms of who you serve, the problems that you solve, and the transformation that you provide. And I'm just going to hold this up to the degree that it's helpful for you and any of your listeners, any of our listeners here, that is the essence of good marketing. Right. That, in my opinion and in my experience, that is what selling ourselves in integrity in an authentic way is all about. It's not about, tooting our own horn or saying, I'm so great, or here I am, look at me, look what I've done, here's my resume. It's about here's my track record. The experience I've had is working with folks like, fill in the blank, who are suffering in this way, who are experiencing this problem or challenge. And of the folks that I've worked with, here's the outcome. Here's what people have said about us. And I know in mental health, it can be a little tricky because we can't always do testimonials or disclose, but we can absolutely talk about, as you two are today, the transformation that we provide. And I'm just curious, when you hear me say it that way, does that feel a little bit different than thinking about having to sell yourself when you're instead just speaking about the transformation you provide to folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do a good job of talking about what we do. And that's a lot of, someone sees us out on our walk and talks. That's usually what we're talking about back and forth. Like, we can do this. This is what we know. This is what's going on. And then we're like, okay, who can we give this spiel to, right? Who can we explain this to? Or Jodi's thing is, what's our elevator pitch? I'm like, I don't know. What is it? It's probably what we just said, right? Yeah.
It's so funny to me, like how we so often overthink this. Like most of us, if we can just get talking about the thing that lights us up and our passion, that is what we need to do. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but the articulate way you both speak about the service that you provide and just getting that out there, whether it's through social media, whether it's through talks, whether it's through networking, that's what people really need to hear. So in my mind, there really is no difference between being able to speak articulately about the problem you solve, who you help, and the transformation you provide, and quote unquote, selling ourselves. There's nothing different that needs to happen there, nor should there be. And I'm curious about the financial piece and your perspectives on that, specifically with regard to one of the conversations I have regularly, because I've seen it so often, is when we underprice ourselves, we undervalue ourselves, we charge a price that we either know is too low, or in hindsight, like you said earlier, we go, oh, we should have charged more for that. That was way more work than we thought. What ends up happening over time is many of us get burnt out. The business becomes unsustainable. We find that we're working, 60, 80 hours a week, and we look at our bank account at the end of the day, and we're just not earning enough to really even make a living. I'm curious about if you could each say a little bit more of your perspective on how that's been for you and what you do to mitigate that.
Well, I think we are not quite there yet. I think that we are recognizing that we need to be cautious not to be there. So we did do a couple of things, I think, to mitigate that. One of the things is we signed ourselves up for and went to a training where somebody was speaking specifically about price points. That was useful. We went to like a success circle for other women who are in business in our community. And both of those instances, I think, just helped us to recognize we really need to be cautious that we don't underprice our services and that how valuable they are. We do regularly look at what people are charging in our community for individual behavioral health services and recognize that we are two people that have, together, I don't know how many years of experience together, more than 30 years of clinical experience put together, that what we have to say really is expert advice, and we can guide people through their issues in an expert manner. So we need to keep that atop of mind. It's uncomfortable for us, but we need to do that.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of business growth is uncomfortable, and that doesn't mean it's not necessary. I just want to reflect back. I love what you said, Jodi, about we went and got training. Right. This was hard for us. Marketing's hard for us, or finances are hard for us. And for the listeners out there, insert whatever it is that's hard for you in business, because there's always going to be something, if not multiple things. And I love that you just went out and got some training, got some insight and education, because sometimes we think the thing that we're not good at yet, or the thing that we aren't skilled in is impossible, or it's overwhelming, or it's going to take us years to learn. And many times that's actually not the case. We put it off, we kick the can down the road, we suffer for it. But then when we actually dive in and we read a book, or we get a mentor, or we go to a training, it's like, oh, this is not so hard. How about for you, Valerie? What's your experience been around pricing and charging, like what you're worth and what you need to build a sustainable business?
Yeah, I think I go through that on a regular basis in my private practice as well. I do hold space for long-term clients who are now in, a financial situation or changing jobs and holding some sliding scale spots. And I try to apply what I think about in private practice to my business with Jodi as well. It's like, I can't put everybody on a sliding scale because I also have to put food on the table at home, right? I have to live. And so the same goes for this, even though, it's something else that we do. We both have full-time private practice gigs. We do want to grow this business. So this is the majority of what we're doing, right? And this is our future plan. This is what we want to grow. So it's like, how can we price that so we get there someday? We might not get there tomorrow or in the next month, but how are we scaling up so that we get there? And then, as far as individual things, we've definitely come up with a price list, but I also think when somebody comes to us and they need something, a lot of times everything we do seems individualized, right? We have a price list, we have exactly what we offer, but every business, every person is different and they need something a little bit different. So our price points changed and we're going back and forth. We're texting each other. What do you think about this number? It's a little low. How about this number? Well, that might be a little high, right?
I love that you have each other to balance this out.
We land somewhere in the middle. And then afterwards we're like, we probably could have gone with a higher
when
number.
one of your heartstrings are tugged on, the other can be more logical.
Yes.
Yeah. I really appreciate especially what you mentioned, Valerie, about it doesn't need to be an all or nothing. Sometimes when women's service providers recognize that we need to raise our prices, we need to charge more, we need to say no to certain things where we're being undervalued or someone can't pay for our services. It doesn't mean we have to do that all the time. But what it does mean is that we need to get clear about how many spots or how, like what percentage of our hours or our business can handle that versus what amount needs to be charging full price to make it sustainable. And I just want to use this opportunity to say something that's like super passionate, for me is I have seen so many women's service providers, especially in the mental health field, burn out in part because they weren't charging enough money. And the one thing I want to say to you both and to everybody listening is when you undercharge, when you consistently give discounts or don't charge your rate, yes, you're helping people in the moment. They may otherwise have said no to your prices, but in a year, 2 years, 3 years, if you burn out, if you can't do this work anymore, there are so many more people that are going to miss out on the opportunity to get support. So at the end of the day, when we charge what we're worth, when we charge a sustainable income that allows us to keep doing this work, to take care of ourselves, we actually, at the end of the day, help so many more people than by giving a little too freely at the beginning. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox and I want to hear from the both of you. What is next? When you think, you're still relatively new, yet you bring so much experience to this. And I'd love to hear, what are you planning on building in the next 1 to 3 years? Where's all this going?
Well, I actually was thinking about that this morning in preparation for this, like where I would like to see us personally is I would like to see us working with local businesses, kind of serving as their like mental health and wellness providers, similar to what an EAP is, but thinking out of the box a little bit, doing a lot more on-site training, having a lot more like a menu, if you will, of trainings available to staff, as well as the behavioral health individual therapy kind of support piece of this, or the linkages to community service providers. I think, we've both been in situations where we've seen EAPs and wellness providers either overcharge and underdeliver, or just simply not know how to respond. I can't tell you the number of times that the hospital's EAP did not respond to a trauma that staff experienced because they didn't know how to, and it was our team doing it. So that just, it really just reinforces the fact that we have that skill set and we could offer that to area businesses. That's what I would like to see from us. I would like to see us get a couple of bigger contracts to be able to supply that service.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for updating me on that.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. And I definitely, along with that one, we're on the same page. Thank goodness. I think I also, want to see a lot of the local businesses, maybe they do have an EAP, right? And that's great. I think we still have a space to offer something as well if they do already have an EAP. Let's take a look at your policies, right? Do they reflect that we support mental wellness? Do they reflect that we're reducing the stigma, we're reducing liability, and we're supporting our employees, right? So I think there's also space in that piece as well. Let's help you create some policies around this. Let's help you improve your culture around mental wellness, right? How can we integrate this into your everyday dealings here? So absolutely agree. And I think there's space for us in a lot of places with other pieces of this as well.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. I think it's such a natural shift for you both, for the background and experience that you bring, as well as your current skill set, to start to incorporate more B2B. And that's one way, I'm a huge fan of that, because we get to serve that many more people. We partner with an individual and we get to serve that individual and hopefully have a ripple effect out into the lives of those that are around them. But when we serve a business or a large organization, a company, we just get to touch the lives of so many more people at the same time. And I'm not surprised that's where you both want to head next. Gosh, I just wish you both so much luck. And I'm so excited for you both and happy for the community that you serve and the impact that they're going to receive and will continue to receive from you both. If anyone's listening here and they want to learn more about your business, what you do, who you serve, how do they get in touch? What's the best way to find you both?
I think the best way is through our website. It's alignedclinical.com. You can contact us from there. You can go to each of our individual practice pages as well if you're interested in learning more about us individually. But yeah, it's a great place to learn more about our services and get a hold of us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you, Jodi, for being on the show, for sharing so candidly your experience, both your successes so far and your challenges. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to FoundHer Rising. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, share it with another founder, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or learn more at hakkolahorizons.com. Until next time, keep rising and keep building the business that gives you freedom to live, lead, and create on your terms.